I'm Jay.
I'm Tom.
And we are Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Today, we're going to review the new third album by Tenacious D entitled Rise of the Fenix. Now, Tenacious D, these guys have been around for a while. They are a mock rock band formed by Jack Black and Mr. Gas, whose first name, Tom, is?
Kyle.
Thank you. I can never remember. And these guys make Jack Black. If you guys don't know who Jack Black is, you're completely out of touch with anything, you know, cosmopolitan, pop culture. You're just out of it. So. Jack Black is kind of a vulgar guy. He's made his way in the movie industry, in music. Tenacious D started off as kind of this, you know, mock band, and had their own HBO TV show. They had their first album, self-titled Tenacious D, was incredible. It was this perfect blend of really good acoustic metal songs and really funny but kind of vulgar comedic sketches. And you know, they took that sound and did something really cool with it and put out something that was just all around a really good album that has gained a lot of respect over the years. A few years later, they actually came out with their second album, which is Pick of Destiny. They had a whole movie that went with it. And then now, a few years later, in 2012, they're coming out with Rise of the Phoenix. Tom, what was your take on Rise of the Phoenix? What were the changes that went on in this album?
Well, it was, you know, it was difficult to listen to at first because you never know what to expect from these guys, yet somehow you have these expectations, you have these standards that you want them to meet as far as the music and the comedy, and those are the two really, those are the two different aspects you really need to take into account here, but it's also about how they work together, or don't work together.
Sure.
And I think that there's kind of a mix of that on here. Now, you think about like their first album, their self-titled album, and it's really long album, just packed with comedy, packed with music, good mix of both, kind of alternating. Now this album's just over 40 minutes long.
Right.
It's only 13 tracks. You know, there are some longer tracks, but there are also quite a few shorter tracks. And I just feel like the comedy isn't quite as dense.
Right.
Now, they are really trying to maybe not make it quite as blunt, the jokes that they're saying. I mean, like, for example, Low Hanging Fruit, the second track, it actually took me a couple listens to really figure out what he was singing about. And once I did, it made me chuckle. I was like, I like that, you know? But still, the music is tight. It's well performed. It's well written. One thing is, you know, through these guys' sprawling comedy tracks, they definitely do a lot with song structure.
Right.
And that's really appreciated because they find a way to weave the jokes throughout the how the tracks evolve, basically.
I think overall, though, one thing that really I'm kind of cool on this album about is just the comedic aspect.
Yeah.
Here you have all this really awesome classic rock, progressive rock songwriting, and it's all over the place. These guys are hauling ass, and it's a full band sound. I really enjoy a lot of the music that's on this record. They do, the first track is this expansive kind of rock opera at times, and then the last 4 tracks are kind of play off of each other. Like the first 3 are really short and kind of interludes to each other, and then the last couple of tracks are a little bit longer and really just show off the Tenacious D's style. They show off their ability to just rock the hell out, and that's something I always appreciate. But however, what's always made Tenacious D such a good band is their ability to balance that with comedic value, and they just don't have that here. The jokes aren't as good. There's only 2 sketches on this album. It's not like they didn't have time to put in more comedic stuff, and it's just not as funny. And because of that, these guys are rocking out. The music is crazy, and it's just not, there's no warrant for it, you know? You don't know why you're listening to the band do it. It's like they're just making music to make music, and it's not quite as full of life and laughter as it was in the past, and it's a little sad at times.
Now, you mentioned that end part, that kind of series of songs, and besides the last track, the 3 that come before it, Rock is Dead to Be the Best, I think that's really a good example of kind of what's wrong with this album. Now, for me, you know, you look at those, all those tracks are between 1 and 2 minutes long, so they move very fast, but they don't really accomplish much. Now, I feel like these guys in the past, even within a short amount of time, have been able to accomplish it a lot, both musically and comedically, and those tracks don't really do much for me. I feel like either they should have been expanded to fit more music and more dense comedy into it, kind of like the first track, or they should have been kept as sketches, and the point would have been made much more clearly. Then again, there are the spots on this album, while they are fewer and more far between, they're still hilarious. Right. The hilarious parts. I mean, and one thing is these guys are actually aging pretty well. Instead of trying to deny the fact that they're pushing their 40s,
right.
you know, instead of denying that, they're embracing it and making it part of the comedy. You get that in tracks like Low Hanging Fruit and the last track 39. You know, they're talking about how they're not interested in the young girls. They want like the older women. Right. And it's really funny. It's really funny to think about where they're at in their lives and the fact that they can just poke fun at themselves and laugh about it. So I really respect that, but I feel like they really didn't do everything they could have to make this album pack a punch.
Yeah, and overall, really good sound, really strong songwriting, really great performance. Especially, I gotta give Jack Black credit, because while he's kind of a silly guy, he pulls off vocals like you wouldn't believe. The amount of passion that he has, the amount of just intensity in his vocals, it's crazy, and it totally sells the music. But when it comes down to it, I mean, there's not a reason for us to really care unless we find the jokes to be funny. It's only part of the story until then. So because of that, I think this is kind of just a middle of the road good album with, you know, some, if the jokes had been better and it had been a little bit more centered and focused around the way that the first album was, really. If it was more like that, it would have been awesome, right? Now, I know that's kind of a shabby criticism, but really that's the same thing that they're going for. So in order to achieve that level of success and quality, they would need to do similar things, since that album kind of set the bar for that. I'm thinking this is kind of a mid-70s. I did enjoy it. 78.
I'm going 74.
All right, so mid-70s for VIMTV. What did you guys think about this album? What's your favorite Tenacious D joke? Let us know at www.velocitiesthemusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesthemusic. As always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, because that's where we do all of our talking with you guys. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
We're looking for a snack, looking for a plump one with a tasty crack. We want some